Hey, true believers, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and continuing on, of course, reviewing the Marvel films in the MCU. Yes, you know the drill. And that's right, guys. I have now finally come up to reviewing the third and final installment in James Gunn's very own trilogy in the MCU. This trilogy, what he brought to the big screen in the world of the MCU, unlike anything. And who'd have thought that even with the first movie that came out, and from there on, we would fall in love with these characters and how they would be done in live action, on screen, and each of these characters that we love so well, and their journey through the MCU, and when we would see them with the Avengers in the two Avengers films, and them doing a bunch of other stuff, and even when they had their own holiday special, yeah. And the fact that we knew that after Volume 2, we would soon see the third installment, and when it was announced that the third film would be, in fact, to round things off with these group of characters. But that's not to say that, it was the end entirely, because, just for some of these characters, because, these group of superheroes not coming to an end altogether, and how it is established at the very end of the movie, But that's right, guys. I am finally reviewing, from 2023, the third and final installment of James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3. Yes. So, man, because having done a rewatch of this, and now here I am reviewing it, man, because, I, of course, and I'm sure maybe as some of you know, I did a vlog of this, where me and my dad, we, of course, rightfully so, had to experience this in theaters. Because, for all of us that had seen the first two films, of course, we were for sure not going to miss out seeing this on the big screen, no siree. And because the fact that we were waiting patiently for the third film to happen, and because, there was at one point when, I'm sure as you all know, James Gunn unfortunately got booted off the MCU, but that thankfully didn't last long, and just over a year after that happened, everything was patched up, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. That's another story, but And, there were some debates on whether if, the third Guardians film at that time was going to continue without James being involved, and if they were going to use James Gunn's script that he wrote for the third film. But, again, when everything was patched up, Marvel was at men's with James Gunn and so on, James Gunn's vision for the third and final installment in the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy finally coming to be, and thus us seeing it being brought to life with what James Gunn had intended for the third and final chapter of Guardians of the Galaxy, and how the third installment is done and with its story. Man. Like I said, having done a rewatch, it's amazing and crazy, because definitely in the third installment, and already getting into my first thoughts and what I have to first say about the third film, because it's definitely unlike, what we had seen in the first two Guardians films, because definitely in Volume 3, it's very intense, and the lighting and tone of this movie, because, my point being is that in the first two Guardians films, they were colorful, very bright and such, but in this one, there's some beautiful color, but there's just something about it, something dark and so on, you know what I mean? And and man, because with the intenseful stuff, there's a lot of drama and heartstring moments, pulling the heartstrings. Oh yeah, because there's a lot of that in this movie. And the fact that, this was even announced by James Gunn himself, that Volume 3 not only focusing and centering on the Guardians themselves, but focusing a lot on this guy. Yeah, and you saw the thumbnail, but yeah. And man, because with what we got of Rocket Raccoon in the third film, a good majority of this movie where he's not joining his fellow Guardians because he's under a coma. However, through a series of flashbacks, we get to see the backstory / origin of Rocket. And yeah, because with a little hints about his backstory and such, like most prominently in the first movie, because that dialogue he had, I didn't ask to be torn, be put together and be torn off. Just, what he said, just, yeah. And seeing this, and going back to what he said in the first movie, that hits hard. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. Man, because it was really well done with Rocket's backstory. But until I talk more about it, when I break down the movie. And just, the fact that with Gamora, because with Gamora, we know what happened to her in Avengers Infinity War, and when she came back in Endgame. However, it's Gamora from 2014, and yeah, this Gamora being unlike, the Gamora that evolved and became a much better being, and so on. Yeah, just, and the fact, because the new antagonists that we get in Volume 3 were excellent, especially the main antagonist, of course. I mean, yeah, because we got Adam Warlock, but, I'm sure a lot of us were expecting for Adam Warlock to be the main antagonist, but I guess, yeah, that's not what James had specifically in mind. And I think that, yeah, because with what Volume 3 has to offer for Adam Warlock, and some of the other characters like Kraglin, Cosmo, and everybody else on Nowhere, there's not that much of them, and they don't really join for the adventure, but at a certain point they do. Once things get really serious and intense, and when those on Nowhere, and where the Guardians of the Galaxy now reside, they do come in and kick some butt with whom they're going up against. Yeah, I think, just overall, that was okay. That was not bad, with how it was done with some of those characters from Kraglin, Cosmo, and so on. But yeah, of course, the main focus are, of course, the Guardians themselves, from Quill, Drax, Mantis, Nebula, Rocket, Groot, etc. And the different locations that they visit this time, and whom they're going up against. It's just unbelievable. In a good way, of course. Just, man. Because this being unlike anything that we had seen in the first two Guardians films. Because, with the first two, there were some hard-hitting moments and so on, but man, in the third installment, they really go at it, just, yeah. Yeah, but, and I think because, with what James Gunn has brought to the third and final installment, just really great, and a great way to, for this being the send-off of the original members of the Guardians of the Galaxy, it was amazing. It really was. And James Gunn went out with a bang, because, well, this being his last piece of MCU material to work on, and, well, we all know what he's done next. Yep. But yeah, overall, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the first things I've had to say about it. Excellent. Again, just a great way to go out with the trilogy, and this being, thankfully, yet another fantastic installment in the MCU, because, from one after the next, I'm sure you get my point, just like, but then, it was good. Just, yeah, because, before this, we previously had Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, but thankfully, because, yeah, when it came to this, not a disappointment, thankfully. And a good thing, because, having James Gunn involved, rightfully so, just, yeah. And, yeah, and also, as I sometimes point out, that's nice to see, because I'm looking at it. Rotten Tomatoes giving it an 82% score. Yeah, because it is good. All right, so, with all that out of the way, the first things I've had to say about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, now, as always, for me, read the description / the story. Still reeling, yeah, I think I said that right. From the loss of Gamora, Peter Quill must rally his team to defend the universe and protect one of their own. If the mission is not completely successful, it could possibly lead to the end of the Guardians as we know them. Yeah. Alright, so, with reading the description / the story out of the way, let's now get into the film itself, break it down. So yeah, here we go. Yeah, I mean, well, first off, because, yeah, what we had seen the Guardians having done previously before the events of this, well, because, yeah, I mean, well, first off, as we all know, the first two Guardians films taking place that same year, 2014, and, of course, before they would meet and encounter the Avengers, and when all of them coming face-to-face with Thanos. And after the events of the two Avengers films, well, what the Guardians would do next is, well, they would hang out with Thor for quite a while. And when it would come to, say, the events of Thor, Love and Thunder, the Guardians getting a pretty good spot in the film, and Thor was going on adventures with them. But at a certain point, yeah, they went their separate ways, and the Guardians going back to space and going to nowhere. So yeah. And then at one point, we would see them in their very own holiday special when they capture Kevin Bacon, and there is a little bit of a reference to the holiday special in this, like it's on like a newspaper where, yeah, Kevin Bacon being abducted and such. That was great, yeah. And yeah, because in the events of the holiday special of Guardians of the Galaxy, well, because we had seen where they had now settled down and moved into nowhere. Now, they've taken over Nowhere and making it a much better place, you know, running the city of Nowhere and so on. Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that Guardians Volume 3, well, taking place after all of that and years after the first two Guardians films, so yeah. So, the opening to the film itself, like, yeah. Well, one thing is, as the MCU has sometimes done this with their opening logo, because, you know, special occasions, something different would come up, like on the, with the Marvel Studios logo showing up, where, yeah, in this case for Volume 3, it's all Guardians. You know what I'm talking about. Just brilliant, because, yeah, again, this being the third and final installment in the trilogy. Then one of the first things we see are these baby raccoons, and, well, we see one of them, you know, being taken by this hand, and just so happens that this one baby raccoon, if you couldn't tell already, it is supposed to be Rocket Raccoon. Then, fast forward, and we, you know, because the camera getting close to Rocket's face, you know, goes from baby Rocket to, you know, older Rocket, and yeah, because again, like I said, by this point, the Guardians have now settled on Nowhere, and we get the opening credits, and also, yeah, the selection of songs for Guardians of the Galaxy, I think, in my opinion, I thought they were okay. I thought the selections of songs that were incorporated into Volume 3 were not bad, because I shout out to my mom, because I recall her telling me that she didn't like the choice of songs that were used for Volume 3, but I'm like, really? Because nothing wrong with that for me, just, I don't know, and maybe the same goes for you. And besides, I mean, because, you know, these certain songs that I think, you know, fit very well, because, like, you know, from, say, Do You Realize, from The Flaming Lips, We Care a Lot, from Faith No More, and also most prominently, I should say, I'm Always Chasing Rainbows. Oh, yeah, I didn't realize, because, yeah, that's Alice Cooper. How did I not recognize Alice Cooper singing? His singing voice, I should say, because, yeah, an Alice Cooper song being in the third Guardians film, that's awesome. And a bunch of others, like, I'm not going to name all of them, but just, yeah, like, there's also I Will Dare from The Replacements, Come and Get Your Love. Oh, yeah, because we once again get that song, the one that started it all, you know, for the start of the first movie, technically. And there's also, yeah, Badlands from Bruce Springsteen, and Dog Days Are Over from Florence and the Machine, No Sleep Till Brooklyn from the Beastie Boys? Yeah, I think I said that right. And This Is the Day from the. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, and also, oh yeah, and also San Francisco from the Mowglis. I do wonder, because, like, the Mowglis, Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Anyways, so yeah, like with the opening credits to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as, like, you know, with the first two films, well, because, yeah, life for the Guardians, I mean, going pretty well, but not entirely, because, well, I mean, poor Peter Quill. Yeah, Peter Quill, who's, you know, hasn't recovered at all from the loss of Gamora. And even though Gamora technically came back, it's not the Gamora that Quill knows so well. We knew so well at a certain point, and the same goes for the other characters. Yeah, and of course, Peter Quill, once again being played by good old Chris Pratt. Yeah, just poor Quill, the depression he's going through, you know, the loss of his love, just... Yeah, it's understandable. And the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy characters, from Mantis, which, by the way, up to the events of the holiday special, turns out that, yeah, Mantis and Quill are brother and sister, and Mantis, once again, being played by the lovely, talented Poem Clementeth, if I'm getting her last name right. Again, you know me sometimes. Nebula, Karen Gillan, Drax, Dave, Bautista, you know, and, of course... Rocket, Bradley Cooper, and Groot, Vin Diesel. Yes, and of course, Kraglin, once again being played by Sean Gunn, James Gunn's brother, and he also being the stand-in performance for Rocket, you know, and Cosmo, who's now joined the Guardians of the Galaxy, and Cosmo being voiced by Maria Bakalova. Yeah, and as I recall, yeah, because we heard Cosmo talk in the holiday special, so yeah. And Maria, being the voice of Cosmo, does pretty good, yeah. So, once again, life for the Guardians, besides Quill, going okay, but again, not for Quill. And because, yeah, like, Quill being drunk, and there's one moment where, like, Quill is being carried by Nebula to bed, and, man, just, yeah, you know, and, like, yeah, the booze doesn't help Quill, unfortunately. Well, then, at one point, and to speed things up some, because, yeah, out of nowhere on nowhere, something arrives and starts to attack, well, I mean, not everybody, because it's going after Rocket, and that being Adam Warlock. Yes, this is where Adam Warlock steps in, and Adam Warlock being played by Will Poulter. Yeah, I think I said his last name right, and we know who he is. He's a great and talented actor, and yeah, and I think that what he brought to the performance of Adam Warlock in this, not bad. And the alien species of Adam Warlock, as we all know, their attitude/personalities in the second film. Yeah, because of course, you know, and Adam Warlock having that in him. So yeah, and by the way, because with Adam Warlock, well, of course, his mother, whom we had seen in the second/last Guardians of the Galaxy film, of course, coming back. But you know, until I get to her, but just yeah, like when. Yeah, Adam Warlock, you know, appears at nowhere, and he's basically going after Rocket. But unfortunately, he actually Rocket took some quite damage and wounds from Adam Warlock. And when all the other Guardians, they're trying to take on Adam Warlock, and even when Quill wakes up to this, you know, he tries to help out too, and yeah, because, you know, after so many years, by this point, because Peter and Rocket, they've become the best of friends. And a few times where Drax is like, you know, second best friend, you know, because Drax, you know, kind of being a bit jealous on the whole best friend thing. Yeah, it was funny. And of course, yeah, I mean, the funny moments in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, well, they do not disappoint. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, again, that whole sequence where they're taking on Adam Warlock, and geez, because, like, even, like, one moment where, man, because Warlock takes quite a beating on the Guardians, where, yeah, he wounds some of them, like, breaking one of Mantis's arms, and, man, at one point, pardon my French, but it's true, beating the shit out of Drax. But even when, like, say, like, from Groot and Nebula step in to take on Adam Warlock, well, even, like, one point where Groot, his head was decapitated. I mean, of course he's okay, and, we only see his head and a few, like, tree legs grow out and kind of, like, walking around like a spider or something. It was pretty funny. Yeah, and also by this point, Groot has grown up quite some. Yeah, especially since, you know, after the last two Avengers films and what we had seen of him in Love and Thunder. But yeah, and, I mean, eventually Nebula takes down Warlock, supposedly, stabbing him through the chest. But, I mean, of course, that doesn't kill him. And eventually Warlock did escape without Rocket, because, again, Warlock was supposed to go after Rocket, but, yeah, didn't succeed on that. And after all that, so much mayhem that happened on Nowhere, and because of Warlock, well, by this point, yeah, again, Rocket took quite a beating and so on, and yeah, even like we see his mouth kind of foaming and drooling, because something's up with him, and them trying to revive him and heal him, but yeah, nothing's really working. And Nebula at one point, like, investigating and scanning Rocket, because yeah, I mean, of course, with the gadgetry that's in Rocket, well, because apparently the results of Warlock wounding Rocket, yeah, because apparently what's inside of Rocket, and with those cybernetic gadgetries and such, you know, because, well, this, like, triggering, for, like, there being, like, a self-destruct and so on, and you know what I'm talking about, just, yeah. And when Nebula finds out more about Rocket, that, you know, he's, like, some property and so on, and, the solution's on trying to save Rocket, because apparently, well, Rocket only has 48 hours to still be alive, and so on, and, yeah, and the further investigation that Nebula does, and when learning where Rocket comes from, and Rocket's connections with this place called the Orgo Corp, if I'm pronouncing that right, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because they learn about that and Rocket's connections with that, and also the one way to try to save Rocket is by using and retrieving this passkey. And a passkey basically being a personal data device, whatever, specifically an NFD6 used by high-ranking Nova Corps members, yeah. And, yeah, because with them learning on how they need to rescue Rocket with this passkey, and they have to make their way to the Orgo Corps and such. And the further they learn about Rocket, well, and here's another thing, because Rocket didn't tell them about his past. He never wanted to share it, but slowly but surely, the Guardians start to discover about his past. Yeah, even when, like, say, they at one point found, like, this like archival recording of a young baby Rocket Raccoon being experimented on, and, you know, with, you know, intenseful surgery and all that, what they put in him, and just, yeah, he got, you know, and got very sore on the forehead, just, jeez Louise, yeah, very dark and, you know, depressing. And yeah, I might as well go ahead and bring this up now, because multiple times in this movie, and as the film proceeds, and, well, apparently because Rocket, I presume, while he's unconscious, you know, he starts to visually see this, where, yeah, because, as I mentioned earlier, a series of flashbacks where we see the backstory / origins of Rocket, because, yeah, well, and whom was responsible for bringing Rocket to life, whom Rocket would become to this day. And the man responsible for making Rocket who he is the High Evolutionary, being played by Chukwudi Yawi. if I'm even getting his full name right. Again, you know me sometimes. But yeah, man, because the High Evolutionary in this, like, as the film proceeds, and the more we know about this character, to a certain point that this antagonist of the third Guardians film, he's insane. He's psychotic and calling himself God and so on. And where he resides on this planet and where, yeah, Rocket first came from and with the whole, Orgo Corp. It's crazy. It's insane. And as the film proceeds and the series of backstory, the series of visions we get of, the backstory and origins of Rocket, it's crazy. And Rocket, his original name was 89P13. Yeah. He didn't go by Rocket at that time. And he was a part of this, okay, so like 89P13. Right. So that's how it's supposed to be said. And he was a part of the 89 batch. Yeah. And the 89 batch, basically, yeah, just these group, this group of experiments, and yeah, because like, the batch 89 was a group of experiments, yeah, I'm reading a little description on it, created by the High Evolutionary in the hopes of advancing the intelligence of Earth's animals to populate Counter-Earth, yeah, because Counter-Earth is brought up a little earlier before we see Counter-Earth itself, because, yeah, and basically, also, to put it this, with what the High Evolutionary is doing with these animals that were recovered from Earth and making them something new and different, making them very advanced and so on, very intelligent, but the way he's doing it, not really a good thing. Not at all, just, yeah. And the other Batch 89 members that Rocket would encounter and meet, and when he's put in his cage with another one of the Batch 89 members, well, because the other members we see is this otter named Lila, yeah, I think I'm saying the name right, being played by Linda Cardellini, yes, aka live-action Velma, and aka Hawkeye's wife. And good for Linda that she gets two character roles in the world of the MCU. I mean, because, it's acceptable because she's just voicing a character, that's all. And besides, James Gunn and Linda, they've worked together because, well, duh, the two Scooby-Doo movies, yeah, as I said, Velma. And James Gunn was one of the writers, well, the main writer of the two live-action Scooby-Doo films. But anyways, and there's also Teefs, whom is a walrus. Yeah. Being voiced by Azam Chowdhury, if I'm getting his full name right. And there's this bunny rabbit having a lot of gadgetries on her, like this metal piece around her mouth, and she's got like spider legs, mechanical spider legs. And Floor being voiced by Michaela Hoover, yeah. And yeah, because some of the gadgetries that they have on each other, like Teeves having like some wheels, and Lila having cybernetic claws, yeah. And yeah, because the interactions between those characters with Rocket, is really wholesome and great, and they would soon become best friends. And also Baby Rocket, being voiced by Noe Raskin, if I'm getting his first name right, yeah. But man, I tell you, because the series of flashbacks we get, flashbacks / visions of Rocket's backstory / origins, just, man, heart-wrenching. And as they proceed on, the further we see them, yeah. And the fact that the High Evolutionary is trying to be a good person to Rocket and trying to raise him good, and sharing Rocket some things about, stuff that's on Counter-Earth and, from music and all that, and rockets being launched up into the sky, and the High Evolutionary mentioning to Rocket that very soon, they will, he and the rest of the batch will find themselves in this new world, specifically for them. At least that's what he says to Rocket. And yeah, because, well, with the mentioning of rockets being launched into space, well, that's where Rocket would get his name later on. And the other members of Batch 89, how they each would find their names for themselves, and yeah, they would like those names. Even because, like, the bunny rabbit, Floor, because, why she chose that name for her, well, because of the floor, literally. And also with what Lila and Teefs said about their names. Yeah, it's all great, and when it came to Rocket, choosing his name. And also, I have a feeling that, I think it's obvious that, at a certain point, and the further we get these flashbacks/visions of Rocket's backstory/origins, well, yeah, because at a certain point, Rocket getting a little bit older and, like, teen years or something, and it seems like, yeah, they pitched Bradley Cooper's voice just a little bit. You know what I mean? And I think it is. Pretty much, it's obvious they did, so yeah. Anyways, but yeah, so back to present time, because, yeah, the Guardians proceeding to, make the coordinates to where they have to go in order to retrieve the pass key and such, in order to save Rocket. And again, making the coordinates, getting in contact, Nebula getting in contact to get permission on, the coordinates of, them to make their way to the Orbo Corp. And also the Orbo Corp, it's, it comes straight from the High Evolutionary himself, and, it's a very interesting location, and when the Guardians make their way to Orgo Corp, and because, a little description on, it's basically, it's just a way to fund his experiments, the High Evolutionary, and, and of course also being founded by the High Evolutionary as well. So yeah, a good majority of that we see in this movie all being straight from the High Evolutionary, those that are under his command and them doing their job, just, yeah. Alright, but anyway, so, yeah, and still, to speed things up some, because, I will bring this up next, where, man, because the chemistry between each of the members of the Guardians is just amazing, and how they've really evolved by this point. And man, because, we get a lot of these characters, and I feel especially, we get a lot of Mantis especially, and how much she's adapted and evolved by this point. And yeah, because, with Poem Clementif, with what she brings to Mantis in Volume 3, excellent, really is, because what we first knew about Mantis in Volume 2, and then when we would see her in the next two Avengers films, and then the holiday special, yeah, but especially, it's Volume 3 where she really, shines in this movie. You know what I mean? It's amazing. And that goes for, of course, all the other characters. And also, as I said, where Rocket not being in this that much, well, because, yeah, a good majority where he remains unconscious and such, well, I mean, yeah, but hey, we do get Rocket, but just currently right now through the flashbacks we get of his backstory/origins. Okay, but then there's a moment where, yeah, because Adam Warlock failed to, bring in Rocket, because, yeah, at the Arita Laboratory, if I'm getting the first name right, which is at Counter-Earth, well, because, yeah, Adam Warlock and most prominently his mommy, and yeah, being, Aisha, if I'm getting her name right, once again being played by Elizabeth Debicki. Well, because, yeah, them reporting in and that they failed to bring in Rocket, and the High Evolutionary popping in, and, well, the fact that Aisha tries to explain that the Guardians are too powerful to take down and so on, and pardon my French, but the High Evolutionary gives no shits, and, yeah, he'll stop at nothing to bring Rocket back in, because, well, yeah, technically Rocket still being property of the High Evolutionary, and, threatening Aisha that he will harm her son, and their civilization. And turns out that he was responsible for creating them, and he designed them. So, interesting. And Aisha agrees to these terms, and yeah, they will once again go after and bring in a rocket. And also, we have the High Evolutionary's advisors, yeah. And the advisors, yeah, they're pretty interesting, because, because we have, Recorder Thiel being played by Nico Santos, and Recorder Vim, Miriam Shore. And Thiel most nobly, commenting that how Rocket survived after all these years was because of his high intelligence, and being very smart and clever. And, with the High Evolutionary wanting to bring Rocket back in, because, again, being his property, wanting to, once again, experiment on Rocket because of his brain. But his advisors having a good feeling that, the High Evolutionary will more than likely want Rocket dead. And there are a few times earlier where, because they're very concerned towards the High Evolutionary and with them serving him, And when it comes up to a certain point, but until I get there. So, anyways, because again, the advisors the advisors of the High Evolutionary, they were some pretty interesting characters, and they've got some gadgetries on top of their bald heads. Also, there were these two other animal characters serving for the High Evolutionary. War Pig, being voiced by Judy Greer. Hey, that's another character for hers in the MCU, because, well, as we all know, on screen, she's the ex-wife of Scott Lang, and mother of Cassie Lang in the Ant-Man films. And there's also Behemoth, being voiced by Renaldo Faberli, if I'm getting his name right. Yeah. They were some pretty interesting and cool, henchmen, again, serving under the High Evolutionary, and what we would see them do very later on in this movie. Okay, and coming back to the Guardians themselves, them proceeding on to OrgoCorp, finding the coordinates and such, and a few moments between the Guardians and, where Quill being upset, and with Nebula calling him Star-Lord instead of Quill, and Quill feeling that, if he hadn't been drunk and such, he could have helped out Rocket more. And even when Mantis tries to, cheer up Quill, and, even explaining to Quill that she's just mad at everything, her referring to Nebula. Then at one point, the Guardians are intercepted and are unexpectedly visited by the Ravengers, and apparently because they have an appointment with Gamora, most prominently from Nebula, and Quill having no idea what Nebula did, and because, Nebula got in contact with Gamora, and, and we see Gamora, once again, 2014 Gamora, this Gamora that is, not the Gamora we knew that adapted and such, and of course, Gamora, once again, Zoe Saldana, because her now being a part of the Ravengers, and, turns out that the Ravengers, they actually help out the Guardians with them getting into OrgoCorp. And not just Gamora, but one of the other main Ravengers, Stakar Agord, if I'm getting his full name right, once again being Rocky Balboa himself, Sylvester Stallone, whom we saw in the previous Guardians film. And basically Stakar laying out the details on what they're going to have to do in order to get into OrgoCorp. They are, the Guardians, along with Gamora, they each get these OrgoCorp red uniforms, these, worker uniforms, so they can blend in, and they will not be detected and suspected by those at OrgoCorp. And of course, in order for them to blend in and to find their way to find the passkey. And they're gonna need the help of Gamora by leading them where they need to specifically supposed to go in order to get into OrgoCorp fully. And some of the other Ravengers, well, Mainframe, the robotic headpiece, and whom we saw in the end of Volume 2, yep, she's back. And this time, not being voiced by Miley Cyrus, it's this time Tara Strong, aka Miss Minutes herself. I mean, hey, it's Tara Strong. She's a talented, wonderful voice actress. And, she was okay. Did pretty good voicing Mainframe. And the others, like Cougar, being played by Jared Gore. Martinix, I think I'm saying that right, being played by Michael Rosenbaum. And Beardy Revenger, being played by Elaine Gale. And Molly C. Quinn, whom we saw in Volume 2 interacting with Howard the Duck, coming back as Molly Revenger, a.k.a. The daughter of Castle from the ABC show Castle. You know who I'm talking about. She's a sweet and talented actress, And good for her just being a part of the MCU. And, well, coincidentally, a little bit of a Castle reunion, technically, but until I mention him in just a moment, And the others, we have Fitz Gibonok being played by Gerardo Davila, and a few others, especially one of them that has the powers of Doctor Strange, opening the portals for the Ravengers to board on the Guardians' ship. Cool. Anyways, so, with the help of the Ravengers and Gamora, with those suits that they get, because them about to proceed to make their way to OrgoCorp. Not to mention these space suits they have to wear, because they have to go outside of space. I seem to recall that those colored space suits, because each of them getting yellow, red, blue, green, and orange, because I believe, as I recall, that's a bit of a nod to the spacesuits in 2001: A Space Odyssey. When it comes to the Jupiter mission, because those spacesuits on that ship, they were colorful. So but they were some cool spacesuits. All right, so continuing and to speed things up some, because them in the spacesuits, as I said, and them making their way inside of the OrgoCorp, and Nebula has to cut their way in, and a moment where Peter, he presses a button, only talking directly to Gamora, a private chat, and Peter sharing to Gamora how much he's missed her and, what she was like, etc. But the others can hear that, just, it was pretty funny and awkward, And, and how is Peter supposed to know which specific colored button to press where only, Gamora and Quill can hear one another, not them, just, Even one of the other buttons, and that Mantis presses, like a big shriek, and it's hurting Peter's ears. It's only happening on his spacesuit. But so they make their way in, and this causes a commotion, and them being detected, and because at one point Master Karja, if I'm getting his name right, and as I said a little earlier, a Castle reunion, because in this we have Molly C. Quinn, and also Nathan Fillion, because Nathan Fillion being in this, and this time playing a different character, because as we all remember, in the first Guardians film, he was that one prisoner where, he was kind of interrogating Peter, but then Groot, put his fingers in his nostrils. That was him. So, we actually get to see Nathan Fillion on screen. And it's obvious that, Nathan is kind of like a lucky charm of James Gunn's. Heck, especially since, Nathan Fillion, Guy Gardner, the Green Lantern, just... Anyway, so So Master Karja being informed about what the heck is going on, and there's a disturbance where, Peter and the others have just made their way in, and them quickly getting off the spacesuits and putting on those red uniforms, Mantis disposing the spacesuits, in this, like, container and such. But little did she realize, like, where, yeah, she hid them. And, yeah, Peter and the others blending in, like, they're mechanic workers and such. And, well, Master Karja and the others, they fall for this. Yeah. And, yeah, where Mantis hid their spacesuits by sending them literally out into space. Yeah, so now they're gonna have to find some way else to get out of there, just, yeah. And yeah, and also because meanwhile, Groot, yeah, because he remains on board their ship, and obviously to also keep watch on Rocket, because yeah, still, Rocket going through a coma, because yeah, him being unconscious, and, you know, mask on his face, you know, that whole thing for him to breathe, just, yeah. Rocket missing out quite a good chunk of what's going on, and with what they're doing. Well, the fact is, their attempt to rescue their friend, Rocket, just, yeah. Anyways, but yeah, so them going through the Orgo Corp and them trying to make their way to find the passkey, and there's one moment where Quill, most notably, at one point accidentally, you know, bumps into, Theo, yeah, one of, you know, the High Evolutionary's advisors, yep, because he just so happened to be there at Orgo Corp, and little did Peter and the others realize that, yeah, Theo working alongside with the High Evolutionary. Yeah, and just the moments that happen at Orgo Corp and them just, the interactions they have with the others, and funny moments here and there, and like, you know, one moment where Mantis puts this one guy, you know, under a trance or something, you know, you're so in love with Drax because they have to pass a gate, and it's so funny. And some of the characters, yeah, like on Orgo Corp, like Administrator Quoll, if I'm getting the last name right, Jennifer Holland, the boss's nephew, Kyle McLean, Bletted Snort, if I'm saying that right, Benjamin Brian Davis, Orgo Corp host, Frennick, Tiffany Smith, security assistant played by Joe Daru, Ura being played by Danielle Melkor, and Gamora shoots this guy. Okay, yeah, that's literally what he's credited. Played by Jonathan Mercedes, if I'm saying the last name right. And also, yeah, and a few others just, yeah, I'll mention them in a moment, but yeah, because them just, you know, again, the further they tried to, you know, make their way to find the passkey, and when at a certain point, yeah, things start to get out of hand, and eventually, when their cover is blown, they are discovered, and, man, because some of the fighting moments, and man, because some of the characters taking quite a beating, especially Drax. Jeez, like, Drax is, at one point gets shot, and it seems like, presumably, like, maybe this is where Drax is gonna die. Because, well, as we all know, Dave himself stating that Volume 3 would be the last time that he would play Drax, but if this is how it's supposed to be, well, no. Thankfully, that's not the case. Drax survives like a boss. Like, yeah, nothing could take down good old Drax. Yeah. And yeah, and with Nebula and the others taking on those at Orgo Corp, as well as Peter and Gamora being very violent and wanting to shoot some of them, but Quill making it clear to Gamora that the other Gamora would have not done that. Just, yeah. And geez Louise, because a moment where Gamora feels that maybe, like, Quill and Nebula are a match, but, you know, like, and with what Gamora specifically said, and, geez, Quill was making googly eyes at Nebula, like, dude, snap out of it, just, golly, what's with you? Yeah, I mean, you know, Quill having his moments, you know, being like trying to be like a ladies' man, but, you know, at the same time, he does have heart, and he cares, you know what I mean? Just, yeah. That's what's so great about the character of Peter Quill / Star-Lord. Yeah. You know, not only him having his, you know, disgusting moments, you know, men, but still, you know, he's a very caring and, you know, in some ways a harmless man. You know what I mean? Just, yeah, you know. Anyways, but yeah. And the further that they take on those at Orgo Corp, and when, yeah, because Nathan Fillion's character stepping in, and man, those suits that Nathan Fillion and the others were wearing, very interesting, yeah. And even, like, say, when Quill's trying to flirt with, yeah, I presume, it has to be, yeah, the Orgo Corp host, or Aura. Which one of them? I'll put a text like which one it is, but yeah. You know, trying to make a good impression on her, even when, like, say, you know, he tries to convince her that, you know, they need to get out of Orgo Corp and for them to be allowed to escape and such. And, you know, she goes along with this, but little did she realize that, yeah, Quill was really just wanting to activate where the suits, you know, that Master Karja and the others wear, you know, to turn off the gravity, so they're floating and so on, just, yeah. But eventually, they manage to succeed, and even when Groot takes, you know, control of piloting the ship, crashing his way inside and, retrieving the other members of the Guardians, they think, presumably, they successfully got the pass key, and them escaping, and then, yeah, Adam Warlock and his mom coming in with what's happened, and even, like, say, when they have one Ravager held hostage, and Aisha ordering her son to torture the Ravager's son to get him to talk, you know, because of the whereabouts of the Guardians and them having Rocket. And Warlock, well, he tortures him quite literally by, you know, burning him to a crisp almost. So yeah, not torture. Yeah, so basically, she didn't want her son to torture him that much, up to killing him. But yeah, and by the way, the one Ravager having a pet that we saw a little earlier, and I presume, yeah, it's Blurp. Yeah, because, well, yeah, any creature like Blurp, you know, being voiced by D. Bradley Baker, because, yeah, D. Bradley Baker voicing Blurp. So now the pet is in Adam Warlock's hands, and yeah, I mean, that's nice to see that Adam Warlock looking after and caring for the Ravager's pet, because, yeah, the creature having no owner until now, thanks to Warlock, yeah. But then at one point, like, Gamora tries to contact her fellow Ravengers, and yeah, this device that came from the now burned, you know, deceased Ravager that Warlock destroyed, yeah, because Aisha picking it up and pretending to be a Ravager, and, well, little did Gamora realize that, yeah, she had just given the coordinates where they're heading to, which, of course, being Counter-Earth, yeah, so that's where Aisha and Warlock know where to go to next and to bring in Rocket back for the High Evolutionary. And I did bring this up earlier because, yeah, when they found, you know, they looked at these archival recordings of when Rocket was being experimented on. Yeah, because that's when, after escaping Orgo Corp, presumably with the passkey and with what they've discovered, yeah, and when they start to learn about Rocket's, you know, past and so on, and seeing how devastating and horrible it was for them, for Rocket. But it turns out that they didn't succeed on getting the passkey because, well, Theo, whom they did come face-to-face with, but they didn't know who he was at first, well, he beat them to him where, yeah, Theo deleted the passcode and such that, you know, they were going to get from Orgo Corp. And them discovering that probably, yeah, because all of that of the passkey being straight into, yeah, Theo himself, you know, the mechanical parts to his head. So now they must go to Counter-Earth to find Theo and so on, just, yeah. And also, yeah, because more with Gamora and Quill, because really intense. Because Gamora, yeah, because this Gamora just will not be the Gamora that Quill and the others knew so well. Will never be that kind of Gamora again. And, you know, just Quill still sharing with Gamora what the other Gamora was like. And, you know, the Gamora would not have done this and do this, that, and that, and that. And just, you know, 2014 Gamora, you know, best way to call her and refer to her, just, yeah, just having enough of this and being around the other Guardians and even telling them, screw you, all of you, just had enough and just wants to go back to the Ravengers. But, the fact that she's stuck with them for now, joining the ride until presumably, she thinks that the other Ravengers will make their way. But yeah. So, yeah, and when they eventually make their way to Counter-Earth, and yeah, because them, and most notably Quill, seeing that Counter-Earth looks exactly like Earth, because yeah, it's a literal duplicate and recreation of Earth itself, yeah. But with a few changes here and there, because, the Statue of Liberty on Counter-Earth is basically a statue of the High Evolutionary himself with a monkey to his arm. And the citizens of Counter-Earth are literal animals that have been experimented and they've mutated and such, and yeah, because we see, a panda, and I think, goat and bats and so on, and they become a bit suspicious towards them, they just don't know what to make out with them at first when they do land, even when this little girl wanted to play ball with Drax, but Drax, throwing/tossing the ball back to her, it hit her face, and this triggered all of the civilians throwing stuff at them, and Nebula telling Groot to grow large and to scare off the civilians. I am Groot! Just, yeah, jeez Louise, Groot looking scary right there, yeah. And yeah, because that's not what, they're supposed to be doing, Groot, and Peter telling Groot to knock it off. And there's one civilian that's a bit wounded on the knee. It's this bat humanoid, this bat that was once a proper bat, but then, yeah, being experimented on. Peter, showing that, not gonna hurt you and attend to the healing, offering something to cover it up. And yeah, the female bat invites them into her home, her husband being a bit suspicious, and telling and she tells her two kids to stay in their room while because of the guests that they have. And the Guardians, settling in the house, and Drax especially just crashing on the couch. It was pretty funny. And apparently, Quill has to speak up for the female bat to hear, and explaining to her that they have a friend in need, and they have to find the passkey and so on. And she does help out. And even, when they want to use her car, which, yeah, she does allow them to, and that moment where, because using the car, of course, Peter being familiar with a car, but as for, say, Nebula not being used to how to open a car door, and Peter giving Nebula specific instructions on how to open the car door, and for the first time ever in all of the MCU, the F-bomb is used. That's interesting. Because, there were a few times where it was teased on some characters kind of letting out the F-bomb, most prominently Nick Fury at the end of Infinity War, because when he starts to blip, you know what I'm talking about, But now for us to finally hear the F-bomb in something of the MCU, and, because the fact that when it comes to PG-13 rated films, only one use of the F-bomb. And this, of course, being before, say, most prominently Deadpool and Wolverine, the fact that that would be the first R-rated film in the MCU. Oh, yeah, because in that, a whole use of F-bombs. But, yeah, but just point being, because, yeah, for the first time in the MCU, we finally hear the F-bomb being said, and, of course, it was no disappointment. It was well delivered. Anyways, but, yeah, so... And Quill not having a good idea on how to specifically drive the car, until he does kind of get a hang of it. And meanwhile, because, Gamora remains on the ship, even Drax and Mantis were told to remain as well on the ship and to keep watch on Rocket. because the only ones that are making their way to get the pass key and, with Theo are Quill, Groot, and Nebula. And when they make their way there, because, only Groot and Quill can go in except for Nebula because, well, her cybernetic arm being a weapon. So, it's not allowed in the laboratory. So Peter and Groot making their way in. And coming back to the flashbacks, the visions that we see of Rocket's backstory / origins. Well, because, at one point, Rocket's still being experimented on, and the fact that the High Evolutionary discovering that Rocket became so smart and intelligent and wanted to experiment on his brain. And the High Evolutionary was asked on what to do with the rest of Batch 89, and the High Evolutionary telling them that, just execute them. And what Rocket does next? Well, when going back to his cage, because he secretly took some pieces, and by putting them all together, basically, in order for him and the others of Batch 89 to escape. Because, Rocket's sharing to them that they are not gonna be going to this new world that they were told that they would be going to. They were lied to. And them quickly realizing that, because Rocket is telling the truth. And Rocket planning for them to escape, freedom and such. But when he first, because by unlocking the 2 cages, one cage that was for him and Floor, and the other for, Lylla and, the Walrus. Well, and when, finally, because Rocket and Lylla, they hug each other and such, and it seems good, at least, but surely something is about to happen. And something for sure does, because out of nowhere, Lylla gets shot. And this right here, oh yes, no denying, of course, that this is a very devastating moment. And this is definitely literally where the heartstrings just, so gut-wrenching. Because, Lylla collapsing on the floor and commenting about the sky and stars, and then she dies, and then Rocket just letting out this horrific, emotional scream, shouting, and, of course, the High Evolutionary, secretly following Rocket back, and, well, because, shooting Lylla, and, because, golly, just right here where we really see the High Evolutionary being so cold-blooded and so evil, just, man. And, well, unfortunately, because, when some of the guards come in, to take on Rocket and such, well, and even Rocket managing to take them down, being very quick and to shoot them down, even when he lunged at the High Evolutionary, really wounding him, just, man, he deserved that. And even after Rocket shot those guards and such, well, already, his 2 other animal friends, Teefs and Floor, they were killed too. Now Rocket being alone for now, and he does proceed on making his escape. And of course we know what would come for Rocket next, because, well, obviously, we know at some point later on he would cross paths with Groot, and the rest is history for Rocket. Yep. So and coming back to present time, because, with Quill and Groot coming face-to-face with the High Evolutionary himself, and the talk they have, and Quill, of course, recognizing Theo, Recorder Theo, one of the Evolutionary's advisors, and then things start to get out of hand, and even when, say, Quill and Groot tried to take on everyone in the room, but with the High Evolutionary's powers, blast waves and taking them down, well, just overall, Groot and Quill managed to shoot down everyone in the room, and even when, Quill coming face-to-face with Theo, having him at gunpoint, but also, before that, the High Evolutionary ordered, the War Pig, to go and to, retrieve Rocket from, the Guardians' ship and such, and also, for Drax and Nebula, well, Drax was not gonna take no for an answer, like, because well, my point being is that he was not gonna remain to protect and guard Rocket. Well, I mean, because obviously, yeah, Drax knew that Gamora being there, so probably, yeah, Gamora would handle it pretty well, even though to her annoyance, just yeah. And Drax taking matters of his own by riding on a bike and tricking Nebula into thinking that they'll ride back straight to the ship, but nope, proceeding to join and help Quill and Groot and Nebula. And to Nebula's annoyance to what Drax had done. Yeah. Meanwhile, coming back to Gamora, because she starts to at one point look through Peter's stuff, from his childhood, his backpack, and even listening to the Alice Cooper song, even when she's using the bathroom, and she's actually singing some of the lyrics of Alice Cooper's song, yeah. And when Gamora realizing and seeing that, Warpig making her way. Well, I mean, because Warpig is technically a she, because being voiced by Judy Greer, I presume. But just overall, because Warpig arriving and because good thing Gamora protecting Rocket, and when from Warpig, but also when Warlock steps in. Yes, because by this point Adam Warlock has stepped in and trying to bring in Rocket as well, but to his and his mom's taste, and to save their civilization. And even when, because telling Warpig to back off, but Warpig taken on against Warlock, but Warlock, decapitating Warpig literally. Yeah, ripping Warpig's head off. Jeez Louise, gruesome and dark. Yeah. Well, I mean, that also shows you how powerful Warlock is. Yeah. And because, us that know Warlock from the comics and what he's like. So, his powers. Well, and also the fact that he can fly as well. And the flying shots with Warlock in Volume 3 were pretty well done. And this predates the fact that, James Gunn directing another comic book movie that has to do a lot with a superhero flying. So you know where I'm going with this. Yeah, so... Anyways, so, and, back to Quill and Groot, because, Quill now interrogating Theo. It's interesting that we do have, well, almost, like, these two characters that kind of almost have the same kind of name, because, Theo and Teefs, I don't know, because, they both have the letter T and two E's in their names, you know what I mean? Just, anyways. Quill trying to retrieve what's on Teef's head, and with the passkey. And even, geez Louise, and even when, at one point, the High Evolutionary has the entire building, the laboratory, being sent into the sky and being launched into space, and this causing / triggering the destruction of Quarter Earth. Literally, one by one, explosions go off, even in the neighborhood. And even when Warlock discovers this, him growing concerned of his mother, because, when he tries to fly back to where his mom parked the ship, should have seen this coming. It's too late, because, unfortunately, Aisha, Warlock's mom, sadly gets killed. So... yeah, I mean, you kind of feel sorry for Warlock. The fact that he literally just lost his mother. Now he's alone. But not for long, because if we knew where this was going, right? If we had a good sense of feeling, I think, I did too when my dad and I saw this in theaters, what was going to happen next for Warlock. But as the film took its time on Warlock, and but anyways, and Gamora because with what's happening, Quarter Earth being destroyed, her flying the ship and then getting the hang of it, and just making it out of there, and with Drax, Mantis, and Nebula proceeding to go inside of the building. To help and, rescue Quill and Groot. But just so happens that Quill and Groot had already jumped out of the building because, Quill charging at Theo, and they go flying out of the building, falling, and, well, Quill just having Theo be up front and, yeah, you know, going to hit the ground. Groot, on the other hand, jumping out and catching Quill, making like a glider or something, and yeah. And when they hit the ground and then making their way to a lake, yeah, Theo is dead once and for all. And Quill retrieving what's in his head, the passkey, and yeah, they've succeeded on that. And yeah, because, well, what happens next is, yeah, Gamora showing up, and Quill and Groot boarding the ship, and yeah, proceeding using the passkey in order to save Rocket. And coming back to Drax, Nebula, and Mantis, because yeah, still, Nebula, you know, being very pissed off at Drax for not staying at the ship, protecting and guarding Rocket, and Mantis, man, because yeah, we see Mantis at her finest where she really is, you know, gets angry and at Nebula, and even at one point she erases a bit of Drax's mind with what Nebula just said to him. Yeah, that was, and you know, that was a good thing on Mantis, because probably, yeah, that's something that Drax wouldn't want to remember with what Nebula said to him. And I'm pretty sure, because yeah, even by that point, Nebula, you know, didn't really mean to insult Drax. And, you know, because of the fact that, you know, even by this point, the character of Nebula adapting and evolving, definitely in a good way. All right, and still, to speed things up some, because yeah, then, when it comes to, yeah, Quill using the passkey to save Rocket, well, it seems like they might be too late, because we see that, well, Rocket is about to reunite with Tief's Floor and Lila in this very own heaven that Rocket envisions. Yeah, yeah, and it seems like, well, Rocket is gonna die, and Quill and the others are gonna lose Rocket, and man, just the performance that Chris Pratt gives right there, where he's trying to save Rocket and him just emotionally shouting, oh, that's so good and heart-wrenching. Yeah, because yeah, you can hear the pain in Quill's voice, because, you know, he had lost so many of those from his mother, Yondu, Gamora, and now about to lose Rocket. Yeah, and 2014 Gamora telling Quill that, yeah, have to accept the fact that Rocket's gone, but Quill is not taking no for an answer. He will not stop in reviving and saving Rocket. And with Rocket about to join Lila and the others, well, not yet, because Lila addressing to Rocket that, yeah, he will soon join them, but his time hasn't come. He still has a purpose. And with, yeah, great dialogue from Lila and Rocket, and yeah, when Rocket does resurrect and is revived, just, yeah, Rocket is A-okay. Yeah, it's great to see. And as for Drax, Mantis, and Nebula, well, because getting in contact with each of them, and yeah, when Quill discovers that they hijacked on the ship to save him and Groot, yeah, and yeah, of course, realizing that Drax did not stay at his post, and when at one point they hear Rocket's voice, and Nebula especially breaking down, Mantis can sense what's going through Nebula inside of her, and I think it's obvious that Mantis was sharing to Rocket with what she was sensing from Nebula, that, you know, we love you and we're very happy that you're okay. And yeah, because the fact that Nebula broke down, well, I mean, hey, because during those 5 years, during the events of Avengers Endgame, Rocket was the only family that Nebula had. Both of them! They were the only family! They only had each other! They lost their other family members until they were brought back, you know, unblipped. Yeah, thanks to Bruce Banner. But yeah, so it's great to see that Rocket's okay. But, well, so much for that, because yeah, the High Evolutionary stepping in. and yeah, capturing Nebula, Mantis, and Drax, holding them hostage and demanding Rocket to be returned back to him. But yeah, Quill insulting the High Evolutionary, even like calling him at one point RoboCop. Another insult, and yeah, something else from the 80s, you know, that Quill being well aware of. And yep, so, you know, Quill, Groot, and Rocket and Gamora preparing to take on against the High Evolutionary. Also, not to mention that by this point, yeah, Nebula, Drax, and Mantis, they stumbled upon these children, these alien children that are being held hostage in their very own cages. And of course, them speaking in different alien language, like Jub Jub. Yeah, that's right. And still, another heated moment between Mantis and Nebula, just them once again arguing, just man. Yeah, just really seeing Mantis go at it, like being angry, just man. Well, I mean, again, just amazing, you know, just how much we've seen Mantis, the character of Mantis, grow, and with Palm's great performance as Mantis, excellent. Oh, and here's a few things that I feel I wanted to mention, because, yeah, did I call Counter-Earth Quarter-Earth? My bad. And also, because, yeah, there was one moment at the Orgo Corp where we saw this Carrot Head that Gamora referred to, like, threatening to shoot the Carrot Head guy. Yeah, Carrot Head, which is literally, that's what he's called, Carrot Head Guard, being played by Jonathan Frisicci, if I'm saying that right, and also there's Carrot Head's friend being played by Diego Ward. And by the way, the one Ravager I referred to because, you know, having the powers of Doctor Strange, yeah, because, yeah, because obviously, you know, he has to be in the credits, but, yeah, but you know who I'm talking about, but anyways. Yeah, and also, because, yeah, coming back to Drax, Nebula, and Mantis still, because, well, because, yeah, the more Mantis and Nebula argue, and because they're being held prisoner by the High Evolutionary, well, their arguing scares and upsets the children, and they're all referred to as, they're credited as Star Children, okay, because, yeah, some of the Star Children, they're played by Yale, I'm not going to name all of them for one thing, so yeah, like, Yale Ocsco, if I'm even pronouncing that right, Adolin Spoon, Henry Heffernan, Brooklyn Sky Oliver, Scarlett Blum, and there's also Letty being played by Sarah Ann, and the main one, and just to go ahead and mention this, she would become a new member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, Fila being played by Kai Zen, and, well, Drax telling Mantis and Nebula to stop arguing because it's scaring them, and he reasons and talks with the children, and just so happens, speaking their language. They had no idea how to speak their language at first, but all of a sudden, Drax stepping in, and he knows how to speak their language. Even like imitating a monkey or something. Beep, beep, beep. The opposite of what a monkey is. Like, yeah, because, well, I mean, the fact that Drax doing so well with the children, because, well, him being a father, he had a daughter, so, yeah. And it was pretty funny, because, you know, Nebula telling Drax, why, you know, you knew their language? You didn't ask. Okay. That was great. And, yeah, because, again, with the laboratory on Counter-Earth having risen from the ground, it's a ship, well, because, yeah, well, the High Evolutionary is suggested by his other advisor, the only advisor that's left, you know, to focus on the new society and not let so-and-so get in the way, but, you know, the High Evolutionary does not take that very well and really requires Rocket's brain. Just, yeah. Man, because, yeah, definitely by this point, the High Evolutionary is going really psychotic. Yeah, and even kind of, yeah, because with those that are serving him, you know, getting the sense of feeling that, yeah, he's really lost it. Just, yeah. And also, Quill, at one point, getting in contact with Kraglin back at Nowhere. Because, yeah, we finally come back to Nowhere and seeing Kraglin, Cosmo, and if I didn't mention this, no, I didn't mention this earlier, where almost throughout the film, Kraglin calling Cosmo a bad dog, because at the start of the movie, we see Kraglin trying to still test out using the bow and arrow, with the Finn being the next Yondu, controlling the arrow. But, you know, him having no luck, But for Cosmo, because if you know the character Cosmo so well, managing to, levitate things and move them around. Now, Cosmo's good at that, and Kraglin referring to Cosmo as a bad dog, and Cosmo demanding Kraglin to take that back, but, he just keeps on refusing. Even when they're like saying they're playing cards, poker and such. Because Cosmo sharing to the others of Kraglin, calling Cosmo a bad dog, and Howard the Duck being there. It wouldn't be Guardians of the Galaxy if we didn't have Howard the Duck. Well, not to mention that Howard the Duck making a cameo in Avengers Endgame, because, well, in connection with the characters we see in Guardians of the Galaxy, because, and also, one of the other characters we see, and it was actually nice to see him come back, the broker, the Xandarian merchant, whom we saw in the first Guardians film, he's back, and being once again played by Christopher Fairbank, so it's good to see that, he made a comeback in the third and final installment, but just them still going on, with Kraglin calling poor Cosmo a bad dog. I mean, Cosmo didn't really do anything to Kraglin, but just, Kraglin, obviously Kraglin being jealous that Cosmo's better at levitating stuff than he is for now. But, again, Quill getting in contact with Kraglin that, danger is going to be heading straight towards them and getting Kraglin to help them out on this, and, Kraglin and the others getting ready for action. And also, Drax did at one point tell the Star Children to, tell the others to, keep away from, the walls of the ship, because with what was going to happen next, and getting up to the climax in just a moment. Okay, and still, speed things up some, because, with Nowhere making its coordinates, and coming face to face with, the ship, with, the High Evolutionary ship, and opening the cannons, firing on them and such, and, Adam Warlock at one point, we see that he was being held prisoner on the Guardian ship, but he broke through the binds, and he tried to attack Quill and Gamora, but Quill causing the ship to be destroyed with Warlock with it, and, for Drax, Nebula, and Mantis, with them escaping, and, they are trying to help out the children, and, a hole that is destroyed and shot, and for the ship to collide with Nowhere, to basically make a tunnel for everyone to escape, and and man, because by this point, everyone that is serving under the High Evolutionary, well, especially, because most prominently, his last remaining advisor, Vim, is now by this point against on certain things that the High Evolutionary is wanting to do, excuse me, well, because, with his obsession with Rocket, just doing whatever it takes to get Rocket, and even at one point, the High Evolutionary ordering for the Hellspawns to be unleashed. And the Hellspawns are this race created and experimented by the High Evolutionary himself, designed to defend his new colony. And the Hellspawns being unleashed to attack Nowhere, and because that sequence where everyone on Nowhere is taking on against the Hellspawns, and most prominently Kraglin and Cosmo, and Cosmo, her telekinesis, and using Cosmo using the telekinesis, and Kraglin still trying to use the arrow. He manages to make good progress with it, using it, even when he does at one point visually see Yondu. That was a nice surprise. And for once more, Michael Rooker coming back just very briefly, very quickly, as Yondu, giving Kraglin encouragement to do it with heart, to listen to his heart by using the arrow the right way, properly. And that's what Kraglin does, just, yeah, the way he whistles, really getting the hang of it, using the arrow. However, he missed one more, and that being, Behemoth. But thankfully, with Cosmo's telekinesis, crushing Behemoth. Yeah, so good on Cosmo. And yeah, Kraglin takes back what he said and calling Cosmo a good dog. Yeah, so good for them. It was all patched up. And yeah, coming back to the Guardians, because the Hellspawns, by this point they've lost and they're defeated. Well, at one point, the evolutionary orders for the Abelisks to be unleashed to attack and kill Mantis, Nebula, and Drax. And, because Recorder, because, again, that's the first name of the two advisors of the High Evolutionaries. Yeah, Recorder Vim. Vim, telling the High Evolutionary that they shouldn't be killed, the Guardians, but the High Evolutionary not caring, and by this point, mutiny happens. Vim and everyone else in the room have their guns pointed at the High Evolutionary. They're about to kill him, and Vim is going to take command and control. But for the High Evolutionary, he's not having any of it. Just this burst of blast waves and just literally destroying the room and everyone in it. Obliterating them. Jeez Louise. Yeah, because again, the High Evolutionary really going psychotic. Jeez. And yeah, when it comes to Mantis, Nebula, and Drax coming face-to-face with the Obelisks, which, by the way, we had previously seen that species of alien in Volume 2. The Guardians had to go against them because, the start of the movie, And Mantis actually realizing that probably they're scared. The Obelisks are scared because, if thinking that Nebula, Mantis, and Drax might do something to them. And Mantis reasoning with one of them that, they're not going to hurt them or anything like that. And yeah, good on Mantis for calming down the Obelisks, and now they're on their side. Yeah. Now they're gentle, kind creatures, so yeah. Because by this point, Nebula and Rocket, along with Gamora, Quill, making their way on board the ship, and when they reunite with Drax, Mantis, and Nebula, Drax, Mantis, and Nebula informing Quill and the others that there are there are children, the Star Children. They have to save them and so on. But Gamora, telling them that they just need to get out of there. But everyone disagrees, as well as Rocket, because and just like as it was shown in the trailers, Rocket saying his finest line, "I'm done running," and thus, the Guardians coming together and taking on whatever comes their way. Because, all the other Hell Spawns and those that are still under the High Evolutionary's command, that sequence where, guns are being shot and they're taking them down, that was awesome. And especially by this point, Gamora, 2014 Gamora, has definitely come a long way by this point. In a good way. Becoming a much better Gamora. Not the Gamora specifically that we knew at first, but you get my point, and you've seen the movie, so because them proceeding to rescue the Star Children, Nebula and Rocket, they go in to take control of the ship, Nebula especially, because, with her gadgetries, getting control of the ship and to have it be lined properly where, because holes on the ship were made and to make a tunnel, and Cosmo using her telekinesis to properly steady the ship, so that way, making a tunnel so everybody can get off the ship and onto nowhere. Because when rescuing the Star Children, and they make their way out, and with some of the citizens of Nowhere being there to help out, get everyone off the ship. But all is not finished yet, because, Rocket really being the only one left, because, because when making the discovery that there are animals that need to be rescued, and by freeing all the animals, and Rocket especially wanted to save the animals as well, and because the animals being living beings and so on, all those poor animals that had not yet been experimented on, it's good to see. But yeah, even like say when, yeah, Rocket coming face to face with his fellow raccoons. And all that time, Rocket not liking to be referred to as a raccoon. Little did he know at all that that's what he is. And when he discovers that the same species that he's looking at that are him, yeah, he is a raccoon. And now he's no longer upset with that, and yeah, realizing that, geez, I am a raccoon, you know, just, yeah. And, well, even when, like, say, the High Evolutionary steps in, coming face-to-face with Rocket, and, well, Rocket taking down the High Evolutionary and telling the High Evolutionary that he's Rocket Raccoon. And, yeah, he says his last name, finally. And then when the rest of the Guardians step in, pardon my French, beating the shit, rightfully so, on the High Evolutionary, and then, when at one point, like, Gamora finishes off the High Evolutionary, and, well, by ripping off his face, literally, because if you couldn't, we could tell, of course, that, yeah, because how his face was looking, and, like, patches, like, you know, on the side of his head, of his face, yeah. And when we see what his face looks like, just, oh my gosh, gruesome, but yeah, by this point, just leaving him there to suffocate, and when, yeah, the ship is going to destroy, and him with it, just, yeah. And Rocket, you know, he spares, you know, the High Evolutionary, because, well, he's a freaking Guardian of the Galaxy, and what he specifically says, yeah. Just, again, let him just sit there suffocating, and until he dies with the ship being blown up, yeah. So, yeah, and again, with them rescuing the animals, and also, the Abolix, yep, they came on nowhere as well. And all the other animals that we see, not just the raccoons, but penguins and a few others. Like, I most prominently remember the penguins. Well, I know more than just the penguins, but I'm just saying, you know, because, yeah, a lot of other animals. Okay, yeah, because, like, monkeys and rabbits, kangaroos, just pretty much about anything, just any animal. But, yeah. And, well, everyone, by this point, getting off board the ship, the High Evolutionary ship, and Cosmo can no longer, with her telekinesis, hold on and steady the ship that long, and at a certain point, yeah, Cosmo passes out after all that power of telekinesis. Everyone's off except for Peter, because, you know, the CD that he had, his music, you know, he's not getting off the ship without that. Yeah, of course not. And, well, because with the ship exploding, and, yeah, he's a bit far away from nowhere, you know, he takes some rope and tries to jump out. I mean, it seems to work, but with some debris in space, you know, the wreckage, parts of a ship, like, yeah, it starts to hit him and slow him down, and, yeah, this is where Peter is about to die, being out in space and him freezing up. And geez, because the fact that we saw this happen to him in the first film, and in this, geez, and his face starts to get poofy. However, well, of course, there's no way that they're going to kill off Quill, because Adam Warlock stepping in, because, yeah, Adam Warlock did at one point earlier try to take on Groot, but he passed out because he was worn out and such. But thankfully, you know, he was spared, especially when, because, yeah, he was rescued by Groot and the others, and even when, like, yeah, Drax translated for Goot, did I say Goot? I'm so sorry, I got slowed down. Drax translated what Groot said to Warlock, that everyone deserves a second chance. And that's true. And it seems like, yeah, for Warlock, and from what they sensed, that, yeah, Warlock deserved a second chance, and rightfully so. And when we see Warlock being redeemed, he saves Quill, reaching for Quill and bringing him back to nowhere. And, yep, with the High Evolutionary ship, all of it being destroyed, Quill was rescued, yeah. That was so great. And everyone, like, going for a group hug. Even Adam Warlock joining in the group hug. Except for Gamora. Yeah, it's obvious. And, yeah, all has ended well. The chaos that happened throughout the film has finally come to an end. But what happens next is that, well, Peter makes the decision. Well, yeah, first off, Gamora disembarking once again. But yeah, by this point, Gamora has adapted. And even though, yeah, not being the exact same Gamora that Quill and the others knew so well, no, she has become better in a different way, in a good way, just, And yeah, because after they say their goodbyes, Gamora is gonna return/reunite with her fellow Ravengers. Well, there's a moment where Quill has a word with his fellow Guardians that he is going to disembark. He's going to leave and return to Earth, because this was brought up a few times about, like, say, his family. And even when, he mentioned to Mantis that she was the only family that he had and wanted. Well, and that went for the other members of the Guardians of the Galaxy. But when it's brought up about, like, say, his grandpa and his mother, and the last time he had seen his grandpa, just, yeah. But with what occurs in Peter and giving it some thought, just, yeah, he decides that, he's done, and he's gonna return back to Earth and reunite with his grandpa and so on. And, well, the feeling that, is this the end of the Guardians of the Galaxy? Because, well, yeah, with Peter saying that he's disembarking, but not just him, Mantis as well is going to disembark. Drax wanted to join with Mantis, but no, because Drax is needed on Nowhere with Nebula to run this new society, this new city of Nowhere. And especially since, yeah, Drax being a father, being good with kids, and with what Nebula specifically said to Drax. And for Mantis, well, because she wanted something of her own, because she spent her whole life, following Ego, what he wanted, and when it came to the Guardians, what they wanted, just, yeah. And the only ones that are going to remain and be a part of the Guardians is Rocket and Groot. And Rocket being crowned captain of Guardians of the Galaxy, the new leader of Guardians of the Galaxy. And yeah, Peter, giving that commission to Rocket and telling Rocket that he'll be a better leader than he. But Peter was a good leader of the Guardians. But a few times, just, yeah, it's a very emotional moment because, yeah, the original line of the Guardians of the Galaxy going their separate ways. Some of them remaining, but not all of them. Yeah. And, yeah, them saying their goodbyes, and even when, yeah, Rocket is given the command of leadership and captain of the new Guardians, and all of them just, doing the salute. And when it comes to Groot, for the first time, he says something different. I love you guys. Now, I mean, because, yeah, of course, he did technically say something just a little different in the first Guardians film. We are Groot. Just the word we. He said Groot still, are Groot, but, But, yeah, so seeing these characters go their separate ways, but for the best. Yeah, because with Nebula and Drax remaining on Nowhere, bringing something new to Nowhere, and with Peter returning to Earth, Mantis going her own path, her saying goodbye to Drax, and even Drax, he did get a bit emotional, yeah. And by the way, because, yeah, the ending to the film, just extraordinary, definitely. And by the way, because, yeah, I mean, as he's credited, Grandpa Quill, because we do, of course, see Grandpa Quill. And actually, because we did briefly see him in Volume 2, if you remember his appearance in that, as well as Grandma Quill. Because, yeah, when Peter returns to Earth and he reunites with his grandparents, Grandma Quill, once again being played by Karen Abercrombie, and Grandpa Quill, Greg Henry. Yep. Yeah, it's a nice family reunion. Grandpa Quill being very happy to see that his grandson is all right and well and, having grown up. Just, yeah. And, well, then at one point on Nowhere, there's a little dance party that happens because Rocket plays a song on the speakers and, yeah, from Groot to Drax, Nebula, everyone, they start to dance. Yeah. And that being the ending of the movie. What a great way to end it off. Yeah. A fine conclusion of the trilogy. But not done just yet because, well, there being 2 end credit scenes. The first one, being the mid-credits scene, where, yeah, we see the new Guardians, yep, being led by Rocket Raccoon, because the new members of the Guardians, being Kraglin and also Fila, Adam Warlock, and yeah, because we saw Adam Warlock now being a part of Nowhere, and yeah, this, having a new family. So yeah, again, Adam Warlock, Fila, Kraglin, and Groot is in there somewhere, yeah. And also Cosmo. Cosmo joining the Guardians of the Galaxy as well. And, we see them on a mission helping these race of aliens. There's this stampede of alien creatures making their way, and each of them are, choosing / recommending a song that should be played while they get to work. And yeah, well, Rocket especially plays the song that, yeah, I said early on started it all, because, yeah, come and get your da-da-da, yeah, that, yeah, because it's very fitting that we once again hear that song, just, yeah, come and get your love. And seeing Groot having grown quite big, and yeah, so the new Guardians of the Galaxy being in action, it's great to see, yeah. And also during the end credits, we see some still shots, of the last two Guardians of the Galaxy films, and that was really great and satisfying right there. And the very last thing when the credits finish is seeing a group photo of the original line of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, even Gamora being in there. You've seen that image. It's really great. And when it comes to the end credits scene, well, because yeah, life for Peter back on Earth, because yeah, because it was pretty funny, the dialogue between Peter and his grandpa, and like I said also earlier, where a little mention of the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special with the abduction of Kevin Bacon, because yeah, as I recall, it is in the newspaper. Yeah, and one of the newspapers that Grandpa Quill is reading, just, yeah. And seeing Peter eating a bowl of cereal, and again, just the funny dialogue that each of them have. And right before the movie ends, we see the legendary Star-Lord will return. So that basically means that at some point down the road, we're going to see Peter Quill himself make a comeback. And yeah, we will soon find out. And yeah, and when that shows and the movie finishes, we still hear Peter eating his cereal and slurping, just of course it has to end like that. Yeah. But yeah, holy cow, just Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Again, just what a great way to end off the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy that James Gunn brought to us. These batch of characters that we've come to love so much. We each have our favorite member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think you know which one is my favorite. Yeah. But yeah. Just overall, everything about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 from beginning to end, the story, the characters, new faces that step in, the selection of songs, the music and score, the funny / hilarious, heart-wrenching, heartstring moments, the visual effects, the suspense, the action, unexpected moments here and there, just, yeah, everything that James Gunn and the rest of the cast members brought to the third and final chapter of Guardians of the Galaxy, extraordinary. It did not disappoint. No siree. Yeah. And yeah, and just again, rightfully so. James Gunn directing the third and final Guardians of the Galaxy film. And again, after he would do this, well, him taking over the DC universe. Yeah, so, all right, but yeah. So, yeah, now, how many stars I give Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? Well, yeah, I'm giving Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, well, what the heck, 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, aka the third and final chapter of the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy from the one and only James Gunn. Yeah. And what about you guys? What did you think of the third and final chapter of the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, Volume 3 itself? Is it one of your favorite Guardians of the Galaxy films? Do you think it was well done with, what was brought to the third and final installment? And of course, this isn't the last Guardians of the Galaxy film. And I think, yeah, it's been made very clear that it's not. Just, yeah, even James Gunn himself stated that he knows about, like, what's next for the Guardians of the Galaxy. Just, yeah, but yeah. What were some of your favorite moments? And with the characters, what was going on with the characters, the movie storyline, and with the suspense, the drama, like, and the funny and hilarious moments, the character-driven stuff, the chemistry, and just, yeah, with Rocket's backstory / origins, with what was going on with Quill and Gamora, and all the other characters, Adam Warlock, the High Evolutionary, you know, just, yeah. And with what James Gunn brought to the third and final installment, just, yeah, overall, what do you think of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 itself, and with what I've had to say, my review, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the third and final chapter of the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I will see you guys in the next video / review. And yep, well, the next MCU film that I'll be reviewing, well, because, yeah, as we all know, what would come next after Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, well, would sadly be yet another disappointment. And, well, you know what it is, but yeah, until I review that. So, yeah. Again, thank you very much for watching. Take care, and until the legendary Star-Lord returns, as well as the Guardians of the Galaxy themselves, peace out, and Avengers assemble.